Some people want to experience a thrilling film without it being a slasher or a horror film, and this is a movie that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat. I'm talking claustrophobia, anginophobia, thalassophobia, nyctophobia. If you have an aversion to tight spaces, being somewhere dark, losing access to the full range of your lungs, this movie is going to be a very difficult watch. And add into the fact that throughout the movie, you keep reminding yourself this is based on a true story. People actually did this. That keeps the level of the horror of these events just beating down on you as you are rooting for this movie to be over, but not because you're not enjoying it, but because you want to see what happens in the end. Hi, my name is Emily, or La Movie Mija. I'm a part-time filmmaker, full-time movie lover, and this is my review of Last Breath. Let's get into it. Last Breath is a true story that follows seasoned deep sea divers as they battle the raging elements to rescue their crewmate trapped hundreds of feet below the ocean's surface. The film is directed by Parkinson and it stars Woody Harrelson, Simu Liu, Finn Cole, Cliff Curtis, and MyAnna Burning. I knew that this movie was going to be standing on business when I saw that at the top of the film in its opening credits, not at the end scroll when everyone's filing out of the theater, but at the top, we see that there is an underwater director of photography, someone who is specifically dedicated to capturing the essence of what it's like to be 300 feet below the ocean's surface, Mr. Ian Seabrook. Combining him with Parkinson, who directed the documentary that recounts the same harrowing events that this film is based off of, and you have a recipe for giving us something that feels real, that is very compelling, and has a high level of respect for the men who are experiencing probably the worst day ever on the job. If you're unfamiliar with the events that the film is based off of, it was an incident that occurred in 2012. Chris Lemons and his crew, they are these deep sea saturation divers, which means that they have to go through the process of decompressing, or these compression tanks where they have to make sure that their bodies don't explode under the pressure of being so far underwater. Look, I'm not a scientist, but essentially they have to make sure that their bodies can handle the pressure of being that far below surface. So essentially it's their job to get to the bottom of the ocean floor, and as they walk along the bottom of the ocean floor, they have to stay attached to the ship that keeps them, tethered so that they don't lose them in the ocean, and it also provides them with the oxygen they need to survive. And that's where tragedy strikes. The umbilical cord that's keeping them alive, one of them breaks, and so it turns into a rescue mission, and that's essentially the events that we are following in this film. At a tight 93 minutes, I found it really compelling how much restraint this movie had, and it also communicated to me a level of respect it had for giving us an authentic portrayal of the events as they happened. It doesn't do much else to try to over-dramatize, over-stylize, or over-exaggerate the relationships between the men. You get an authentic feeling that these men are co-workers. Yes, they're in a very high level, high stress, and very dangerous job, but it doesn't feel any different from an office job at times. You have Woody Harrelson playing the most veteran of the divers, and he kind of oversees the team. He is the glue that brings them together. He has so many stories. He's the kind of guy that you want in a very stressful situation because he knows his stuff and he's there to comfort you as well. Then you have Simu Liu, who is in a very different role than I've ever seen him before. He's a lot more reserved, a lot more quiet. He's kind of standoffish. He's like the guy who's like, we're only here to do a job. Don't get too personal. Let's not get to know each other too much. He's very tunnel vision with the work, and he finds that helpful to keep his mind focused so that he doesn't make any mistakes while he's working. And then you have the heart of the film, Finn Cole, who plays Chris Lemons, and he is a lot younger, a lot brighter, like a lot more sunnier than the others. He has like a youthful exuberance to him. He's really excited about the work that he does. He is engaged to his wife to be Morag, and you have a real sense of like their love for one another and the sense of worry that she has for her husband doing such a dangerous job. And because we get the feeling of them being co-workers more than like brothers, the drama of the story really comes from the situational horror that they find themselves in when that umbilical cord breaks. Everything else feels very professional, nothing out of the ordinary, until shit hits the fan and they have to figure out a way to get out of it. If you're looking for a deep, compelling, human-centered story that is very character driven, that's, focused on the inner relationships between the characters and like their outlooks on life and how that relates to the event itself. This is not that movie. This movie gives us these authentic feeling portrayals of these men on a job, going about their professional business and trying to then navigate out of it. And I don't see that as a weakness for the film. I see it as a strength and an emphasis on the fact that they want to just take you on this really harrowing experience. And I feel like they double down on that with the cinematography. The The cinematography and the sound design combined to give you this really awful, like terrible feeling that you are underwater with them. The audience that I saw this movie with were gasping, shouting, cheering. There is a moment in this film where the sound cuts out completely and it's tied to a very keen moment, and it really took my breath away. I'm not even lying, I gasped because it was so beautifully done, so well executed. This is a story that doesn't need to be over dramatized. You don't need any more like character buy-in, or like you don't need more sympathy for these characters, because the facts of the case alone are already terrifying enough. And it has a very effective use of text on screen to communicate the conditions in which these divers are in, but it doesn't overcomplicate the science behind it. So it's a very accessible film, and it does feel like a human-centered story at the end of the day, even though we're not getting to know the characters all too well. And because this is based on a true story, I am way more forgiving about how they went about showing our characters and the character development itself. If this was an individual story where they had free reign to come up with these characters and give us this drama and some other pressure points to help, accelerate the tension in this film, then maybe you can make an argument that this film doesn't do its job. But I feel like this film is doing exactly its job, giving us a very real sense of what it's like to be on the job with these guys, the way that they communicate tension and give us the facts of the case, just so deeply unsettling. I feel like this movie is one that you're gonna want to see in theaters, because I feel like that's when you're gonna have the most fun with it. You're gonna get the audience reactions. You're going to have those moments where you squeeze your friend or your partner's hand, or just like jump up in your seat a little bit, and it encourages a full body reaction from you. I don't think this is a movie you can just sit back, relax, and just like turn your brain off. It's gonna be an experience where the muscles in your body tighten and you're going to want to root for it to end, but not because you're not having a good time, but because you just want to know if everyone's going to be okay. Overall, I really enjoyed the film Last Breath. This is like a roller coaster of a movie, not a movie that's going to send me on like a very deep rumination on the human experience or my thoughts on life and death or anything like way too deep. Sorry for the pun. But it is a really entertaining experience, and I really appreciate that this film didn't take the bait to over dramatize or over stylize the relationships or give us like backstory into these characters beyond what this movie is trying to communicate, which is there are people that do this job and it is fucking scary when things go wrong. And I have this like running bit with my partner where we'll see a different career path, maybe not one that we're qualified for or ever even interested in, but we'll look to each other and say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Take deep sea diving off of your list of possible career choices for you or our future children. But overall, I really enjoyed the film Last Breath. It is definitely a thrilling popcorn type movie that you're going to want to see in theaters with an audience. And it is something that even though like the characters themselves won't stick with you, the human experience of like teamwork and what you do, the camaraderie that comes together in the face of tragedy, in the face of danger is really inspiring. And in the end, I found this to be a very compelling and respectful retelling of those harrowing events for Chris Lemons and his crew. Let me know if you end up checking out Last Breath. All right, that is all for now. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you next time. Bye.